Okay, so today we're going to break down Chapter 9, Nail Tips and Forms, from the Milady Standard Nail Technology textbook. There are 7 objectives from this chapter, so I'm going to go ahead and post those so that we can see the objectives. Objective number 1 is explain why a nail technician should learn about nail tips and forms. Number 2, identify the difference between a nail enhancement and a nail extension. Number 3, explain how to prepare the nail for nail extensions. Number 4, describe the 5 types of nail tips. Number 5, list the advantages of using nail forms. Number 6, name the 7 most common nail shapes requested with nail tips. And then number 7, identify the qualities of a properly structured nail enhancement. So for objective number 1, explain why a nail technician should learn about nail tips and forms. The text does give us a little bit of an explanation. So it says that many clients will not have perfect nails. That is why they come to a professional for services and advice. They will expect you to alter or enhance the beauty of the nails and hands. Creating longer, stronger nails is one of the most popular services you will do. As a nail technician, you will need to have a thorough understanding of nail tips and forms because you will need to prepare the nail so your extensions can last so that your extensions are long lasting. You will need to properly size tips to your client's nails, and then you will need to know how to properly secure a form to the finger for sculpting extensions. All right, so just as a recap, again, we want to be able to prepare the nail. We want to be able to properly size our tips and properly secure our nail forms. All right, so objective number 2, identify the difference between a nail enhancement and a nail extension. So, let me just say, one of the most popular services requested is nail enhancement. So, a nail enhancement is any product added to the natural nail. That's the definition of a nail enhancement. It's any product added to the natural nail to increase the strength and beauty. So, enhancements. An enhancement could just be dip. It could be gel. It could be any kind of embellishment. Anything that's going to give strength and beauty. Nail extensions, the definition of that is we use these when a client wants to increase the length of their natural nail. And it's 2 ways that we can increase the length of a natural nail. We can either do a nail tip, the plastic nail tips, or we can do nail forms. So then we have objective number 3, explain how to prepare the nail for nail extensions. And there's a few different things, a few different ways that we can prepare the nail for nail extensions. So when preparing the natural nail, you want to ensure that the enhancement product lasts. It's important that the natural nail is clean and free of moisture and oil so that the enhancement products adhere to the nail plate. Remember that the keratin layers in the natural nail acts as a sponge, so the nail plate is absorbent. You want to start with, you can either do a dry manicure, which is exactly what it sounds like. You can do this prior to an enhancement service, and this is where we prepare the cuticle and the nail plate without soaking them in water. So basically, a dry manicure is preparing the nail plate and the cuticle without soaking the nails in water. This is needed if a client does not schedule a manicure service with a nail extension service. So all of your clients are not going to always request a manicure. So at the very minimum, you're going to be doing a dry manicure to prep the nail plate and the cuticle prior to that service. And that's going to include shaping the nail, pushing back the eponychium, removing the cuticle from the nail, and gently buffing the nail to remove any compact layers that may be in the way. And then you also want to dehydrate the nail. A lot of times you can use isobutyl alcohol, but then there's also different products like nail dehydrator and primer that also assists with that. For your nail dehydrator, we use that to temporarily stop the nail from producing moisture. So your dehydrators, they only last for about 10 minutes. So if you're not ready to put that nail enhancement on both hands, then you want to dehydrate one at a time because it only works for about 10 minutes. And then the chemical, the ingredient is butyl acetate. So your nail dehydrators are commonly made from butyl acetate, and they typically last about 10 minutes before the natural nail oils resurface. And so with the nail dehydrator, you can reapply it as often as you need to. Okay. After application, so after you put the dehydrator on, you don't want to touch the nail plate with your hands because you have oils on your fingertips, and you don't want to transfer that back to the nail. Okay. Objective number 4 covers describe the 5 different types of nail tips. Okay. So once your nails have been prepared, whether with dry or wet manicure, you'll need to decide whether you're going to use tips or forms to create their extensions, the nail extensions. So for nail tips, those plastic tips that we attach to the natural nail. They are pre-molded, and they're made out of this really long word here. We call it ABS for short. For long, it is acrylonitrile butadiene styrene. So that will be a test question that you'll have on your chapter test. That is the special plastic that those nail tips are made out of. And what they provide is length and support. Okay, and then obviously when we use nail tips, we're always going to be overlaying the nail tips with a nail enhancement. So you can put dip over your nail enhancements. You can do monomer polymer over your nail enhancements. You can also do hard gels over your nail enhancements. I'm saying that wrong. You can do dip over your nail tips, monomer polymer over your nail tips, or hard gel over your nail tips.
Nail enhancement is the actual product that we use, and the nail extension is the nail tip.
Yes, so the nail enhancement is the product, and the nail tips are going to be your extensions. So any of our nail enhancements are going to be things that we use to beautify. So it could be your monopolymer acrylics, hard gels, dips. And so basically we are going to be overlaying those nail tips with those various enhancements. Okay. So your nail tips, they do have a well, and on the next slide we are going to talk about the different I was going too fast. We're going to talk about the different type of wells, but I want to talk about the well by itself. So the well, I do want you to write down that the well is the portion of the nail tip that meets the natural nail. So the well is like a shallow depression that serves as basically the point of contact from the nail tip to the natural nail. And then in that well, that is where we put that adhesive. So you put your nail glue. And then you also need to know what the position stop is. So your position stop is the point where the free edge of the natural nail meets or stops inside of the well on that nail tip. So that determines where the tip should be placed. I think this may be a given, but your nail tips that we purchase, they come in different sizes, different shapes, right? Different lengths. You have natural lengths to extended lengths. And when you purchase them, they usually come in up to 10 to 12 sizes. Mm-hmm. What else? When you purchase a container, the containers usually come with about 100 to 150 nail tips amongst the different sizes. Okay. All right. So next up, we have the different types of nail tips, mainly, and they're all going to vary by the type of well. Some of them are well-less, and some of them have a certain type of well. So let's start with the full well. So a full well, if you're looking at the screen, a full well is not here, but easiest way for me to explain what a full well is those are your full coverage tips. Those are like your press-on. It covers the entire nail from the cuticle all the way. Um, I'm so sorry. I said that wrong. Our full weld is here. Our full weld is here. Our full weld is in the middle. Okay. Our full weld is going to cover most of the apex area. So your full weld is going to cover the entire apex area, and it also usually covers more than half of the nail plate. So if you're looking at the screen, that nail that's in the middle, you see that translucent area that's considered the weld, that is where you will put your adhesive. So depending on the type of weld and tip, that determines like how you attach it to the client's natural nail. So our full weld, again, is going to cover the entire apex area and usually covers more than half of the nail plate. So it's going to have more of a contact point with your client's nail. Then we have what we call a partial weld tip. So if you're looking at the screen, the partial weld is going to be the nail tip that's on the right. You can see it's a partial weld. So it's going to have obviously a smaller weld. It's going to be a smaller contact point. So your partial weld, they're usually altered at the weld line to expose more of the natural nail. So these expose more of your client's natural nail. The weld is shorter than your standard full weld tip. Then you have your weld list tips, which if you're looking at the screen, it is a tip to your left. On the left hand side, as you can see, we don't see a weld right there, right? So for your weld list tips, they have no weld at all, and therefore those have no position stop. So you attach those wherever you attach them on your client's nails. So it's important to jot down that your weld list tips, they do not have a position stop. And again, we can attach them to the natural nail wherever they best fit. And then for the last two, we have full coverage tip. That's what I started to mention a few seconds ago. I was getting them confused. But your full coverage tips, they are going to cover the entire nail from the cuticle to the free edge. So those are the press-ons, or the ones that nail techs or people typically make and decorate and sell, resell to others. For those full coverage tips, they do need to be customized to fit the entire nail plate carefully. So if a client is going to wear those, more than likely they're going to have to do some kind of customizing either on their nail tip so that it actually fits their actual nail. Okay. Then there's a such thing as your French tip nail tips. They already have. They come with like a little dip, we call like a smile line, already cut into them, so that when you attach it, it already looks like a natural French, right? So it's cut like a smile line at the contact point. Some of the French tip nail tips, they do have a partial weld, but some of them will come weldless, and they're meant to be applied for your French tips. When you do these, we're not going to be blending the nail tip into the natural nail, because if you blend it, you're going to take away the smile line. So if you use those, you just attach it to the natural nail, and then you do your overlay or whatever you need to do so that you can still keep that solid smile line that's already pre-cut into the nail tip. All right, so when it comes to applying our nail tips, we want to make sure that we are choosing the proper size tip. When it comes to choosing your proper size tip, you want to make sure that the tip should cover the nail plate from sidewall to sidewall. So when you are measuring or selecting your nail tips, just make sure that the tip is meeting both sidewalls of the natural nail. Using a tip that is not wide enough will create a glitch or unevenness at the sides, and also may result in a crack or a split. Also, if you try to force a tip that's too small on the nail, a lot of times that is going to cause some pinching pressure, or it may cause that tip to pop off. Now, sometimes clients' fingers may be in between the sizes on your nail tips, so if you need to, just take your file and file along the sides of the sidewall if you need to customize that nail tip. Okay. Um, the best fit for your nail tips is when the tip sits on the nail without any pressure and just rests there easily, and it meets both sidewalls. Um, and that's pretty much it about choosing the proper tip. When it comes to applying your adhesive may come in various types of bottles or containers. So it may come in a tube. You may have to paint it on, or you may brush it on. You can choose thinner adhesives that dry quicker. So just as a rule of thumb, the thicker your glue is, the longer it's going to take it to dry. The thinner it is, the quicker it's going to dry. The text does tell us to wear eye protection and also not to use too much adhesive. You don't really need a lot. The main thing is applying the adhesive to the weld and then applying it to the natural nail. And then when it comes to applying the tip to the nail, you want to place the tip onto the nail by lining up the free edge against the position stop of the tip. If there is a position stop, if you're using a weld, there's not going to be a position stop. You want to use gentle pressure. There's another technique that they call, I think it's like stop, rock it, and hold it into place. So that means you want to apply the tip, stop, and then rock it left and right to get the air bubbles out, and then just hold it in place just to make sure that adhesion occurs when you put your nail tips on. It does say to hold in place at least 5 to 10 seconds. That may be a chapter test question. When you're applying your nail tips, hold it in place using slight pressure so that air does not re-enter the contact zone. You don't want air bubbles because air bubbles will create the opportunity for dirt and debris to get into the nails, and you don't want that. And then your adhesive, it should not run onto the skin. If you see that your adhesive is running onto the skin, you may be using a little bit too much adhesive. Okay. After that, you want to cut the tips to size. So you do have tip cutters. When it comes to working with your tip cutter, I do want to point out that your blade should always be facing you, right? Instead of it facing your client. And then you may want to hold the end of the tip as you cut it with the tip cutter just to make sure it doesn't fly anywhere or put anyone's eye out. After that, then you do want to shape the nail. So I like to say you do shape the nail 2 times when you're doing nail extensions. You got to shape it 1 time before you put the enhancement product on. And after you enhance it, you still have to go back and redefine the shape. So when you're shaping the nail, you want to shape it to the desired shape. After that, once you shape it, then you can go in and reduce the weld area. Reducing the weld area just simply means blending the tip into the natural nail. That just helps for your sets to last longer. Now, if you don't want that set to last a long time, or as long as you possibly can, you don't have to blend the tip into the natural nail as good. Like sometimes you go to the nail shop, they're not blending in a whole lot because they want you to come back. They only really want it to last for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever. So when you are reducing your your nail tip into the natural nail, the text does tell us to use a medium grit abrasive, but I also feel like 240 sanding bands are good too. If you want to use 180, that's cool. I would not go lower than 180. And then you want to blend it until there's no visible line. So you want to blend it until you can't tell where the natural nail stops and the nail tip starts. Okay. All right, so the next objective is objective number 5. So now we've talked about tips and the types of welds and things like that. So now we're going to talk about nail forms. So for your nail forms, your nail forms is going to be an alternative to your nail tips. You may want to be that person that just fully customizes the entire experience, including not using tips and just creating the shape for your client out of nail forms and sculpting that nail. When you're working with your nail forms, you do need to place the nail forms that do go under the free edge. So it is going to be a little bit difficult if you try to do nail forms with someone who doesn't have a free edge or who bites their nails. And what you do with the nail form is basically place it under the free edge, and it acts as an extension for you to apply that enhancement product on. And the advantages of using the nail form. So they are natural looking. The text says it saves time, but if you're not used to doing them, it's really not going to save you time. But the more practice that you do and the more repetition that it becomes, then you may be able to save time with nail forms. And then lastly, it's just going to give you an advantage over other nail technicians because a lot of people don't do nail forms. So like, let's just say you're trying to create a luxurious or customizable experience for your clients. Then they can, if you want that to be your niche, then that might be your niche because people like things that they can't get anywhere else. So if they come to you and they know, well, she doesn't used to, she does nail form and she customizes my nails, and that, you're going to have clients that's going to want that. So those are some of the advantages. Okay. As far as the types of nail forms, so there are two types. Honestly, I only recommend the disposable kind. They're made of paper or mylar. Okay, that's what you see here on the screen. They usually come in a roll or a pack. And basically, it's just like a sticker. And when you take that sticker off, you want to mold or kind of round that nail form before you attach it to the nail, so that it's easier to make that arch that we need for like our C curve, right? There are reusable nail forms. I don't really recommend those. They're made of plastic or aluminum. I don't really think that they're commonly used. I would rather just take my paper, my sticker, and put it on and throw it away. If you do the reusable ones, that's another thing that you have to clean and disinfect. So I feel like I would just want to use single use and be done with it. And then the single use, the disposable nail forms are not expensive, so it's not going to really take your cost of operations up drastically if you decide to use the disposable ones. And again, with the reusable ones, they're made of either a plastic or aluminum, but the difficulty here is a lot of times they don't like to stay in place. So why am I going to struggle? I would just recommend using the disposable ones. Okay. Objective number 6. So name the 7 most common nail shapes requested with nail tips. So we do have our common shapes for nail tips or nail extensions. So you have your square, squoval, round, and oval. On the next slide, there's also almond, stiletto, and ballerina. So these are basically the 7 most popular shapes. Just notice that your square, the side walls of your square is going to be very angly. You're going to have a 90-degree corner, 90-degree edge on both corners. So the side walls are very straight, and it's characterized by having a very sharp corner. That might be a test question. So square, straight side walls, straight edges with a sharp corner. For your squoval, it is similar to your square. They are going to have, your squoval still has a straight side wall. However, they have soft edges or like a rounded corner. Sometimes they also call squoval, they may also be referred to as soft square. So you might want to also put that in parentheses. Some clients may come to you and say, I just want a soft square shape. That means that they want squoval or like a square with rounded edges. Round has an edge that mimics the cuticle. So if you look at that third finger, if you look at the cuticle area is round. And so for round nails, the free edge mimics the cuticle. And round may also be slightly tapered on the side. So the word tapered just means that something's going either from longer to shorter or either straighter to round or vice versa. For your round, it's going from a little bit straighter to rounder on the corners or straighter on the side walls to, rounded around that free edge. So that means that's what a tapered edge looks like, or that's what that means. Then we have oval. So again, oval, the characteristics is very tapered. It starts out wider and gets narrow. So that's another definition of tapered. Okay. and it has an edge that comes to a soft, round point. Okay, different from our stiletto and our ballerina that we're going to talk about. Our almond shape. This is my favorite one. In case y'all know me, I love almond shaped nails. I wear them all the time. Your almond shape. Your almond shaped nails are going to be similar to an oval. They're going to be very tapered. Okay, meaning taper getting slender towards the nail tip. But the edge does come to a sharp point. Okay. Sometimes you also may ask your clients, or your clients may ask to have a rounded almond or maybe more pointed. So you might want to just ask them that as you consult with them. How do you want your point? Do you want it to come to a finer point, or do you want it to be soft and rounder? Remember, anytime that you can clearly communicate to them and have them clearly communicate to you about what their needs are, they're going to have more confidence in you. So by you being able to have the conversation and guide them to helping you perform the service, then it's going to help you in the long run. So they're going to feel like, oh, she knows exactly what I want, right? Then we have a stiletto. So your stiletto, it is long and tapered, and it does come to a sharp point. It does resemble a long, skinny carrot. Okay, so that's your stiletto. And then your ballerina is similar to a stiletto. The only difference with the ballerina is it does have a square edge on it. Okay, so instead of coming to a sharp point, they create a square edge on it, which resembles a ballet point shoe. Okay. All right, so nail shapes for nail tips. So it's important to know from the beginning of the service so you can create the shape with tip or form prior to applying your enhancement product. So always know what shape your clients want. And then when using a tip, you want to file the basic shape onto the nail tip prior to blending the welt or contact area, because once that welt is blended, it's hard to go back in and file and shape that nail. So always do your shaping and then do your blending. And then when you're using a nail form, you want to apply that nail form in the way that you're going to apply that nail enhancement. So, for example, for square, soft square, round nails, you want to form sides should come straight out from the natural nail grooves. And if you're going to do almond, stiletto, or oval, the form you want to bring that form to a point at the end. So basically, when you apply the nail form, you just want to think about the shape that you're having the sculpt so that you can apply the nail form in that fashion. That's mainly it about that. I'm going to go to the next objective. So objective number 7, identify the qualities of a properly structured nail enhancement. So, and on the next slide, some of these terms you probably have heard of, but they're kind of the same for the natural nail. We just call them something a little bit different for our nail enhancement. So nail enhancements should not only look good, but must also remain strong and healthy while your client is wearing them. The nail technician should pay particular attention to several areas in order to provide the best and long-lasting nail enhancements. So, a stress area, the definition of a stress area is an area that's easy to break, okay? And your stress area usually is where the natural nail grows beyond the finger and becomes the free edge. And when we're talking about nail enhancements, we always talk about the term your apex or your arch, and we always have you guys to focus on making sure that your apex is secure, because that's what helps the stress area. That's what helps the nail to not break. So the stress area is where the natural nail grows beyond the finger and becomes a free edge. That area needs extra product and strength to support the artificial extension. Okay. It also becomes the highest point on the nail, so you might want to also write that down. Your apex is the highest point on the nail, and it also should be the strongest point on the nail. Okay. Strengthen the apex allows the base of the nail, the sidewalls, and the tip to be thin, yet it leaves the nail strong enough to resist breaking. So the apex is oval shaped. You might want to write that down. The apex should be oval shaped. If you look at this at the top finger on the picture here, you can kind of see where that free edge is. You have more product there. It looks wide. It looks a lot thicker there. It's going to give an oval shape, and then back up towards the cuticle that should be thin. Also, out here you can see the on the free edge of the nail, that's also thin. So this area, which is the free edge and the cuticle, those should, and your sidewall, they should be credit card thin. You don't want those areas to be thick. The only thick area that you need is that arch or that apex area for the durability of the nails. Okay. I was going to say something else. So the apex should be the highest point on the nail, no matter which angle you're looking at the nails. Okay. What else do I want to say? Okay, so the next part we have is the sidewalls. So as you can see in the middle, the picture in the middle, the sidewalls is basically the area of the nail plate that grows free of its natural attachment to the nail fold. So basically the sidewall is anything that is beyond the tip of the finger and out. Okay, sidewalls, you have to take care of your sidewalls, especially when you're like defining your shape. Sometimes if you don't hold your file at the proper angle, it may not look as crisp, or it may not be the shape that you want. So that sometimes that's a newer nail technician's challenge, is to make sure that their sidewalls are nice and crisp. Also making sure that when they're laying their nail enhancement products, they're not too thick and like product is not getting on the bottom side of their nail extension. So again, the sidewall is where the extension leaves a natural nail. And then if you look at the finger on the bottom, and again, this is a great example and shows you exactly the apex. You guys can see if you look at the cuticle area, it's thin here. If you look at the free edge, it's thin there, but in that middle where that nail extension is meeting the free edge, there's more product in the middle. But as far as the nail extension underside, it's the actual underside of the nail extension. Depending on the type of nail tip you use, or depending on how the client's nails grow, this extension, it may jut straight out, or it may dip depending on the style of nails that you're doing. This extension underside should be even and matching length from the nail to nail on all fingers. So meaning when you're deciding how long the nail should be, the tips should all be the same length, basically. Okay. And then your nail tips should fit the nail and finger properly. The underside of the nail extension should be smooth. So you may have to also flip your client's hands over and make sure that you clean up any nail enhancement product that may be in there. For sometimes, like when you're working with your acrylic, it may drip and fall up under there. So just make sure you always check underneath to make sure that they're not walking out with product under there. Okay. All right. And then as far as the thickness of the nail enhancement, I've already mentioned it, but it should be thin. It should be thin so that the client can wear them comfortably throughout the day. The only thick area should be the apex area. It also should graduate seamless from the cuticle to the end of the nail extension, and your side walls and the tip's edge should be, again, credit card thin. So if you look at the edge of the free edge, that should be as thin as possible. Again, the thickness should only be in the apex area. The cuticle should be thin. A lot of times, beginner nail techs, they struggle with sealing the cuticles and making them, not so thick. And then we have a C curve. So some of your nail tips will come, it'll say like no C curve. Some of them will have a C curve. So the C curve also helps with the durability and the strength of your nails. So on average, you do want a 35% C curve, and that just provides structure to the nail so that it looks slender on the hand. It also provides strength. So think of your C curves like like a curve in a bridge or like the curve on the egg. It just helps them to be durable. And then as far as your length of your nail enhancement, again, your index, middle, and ring fingers should be the same lengths. Index, middle, and ring. Wait, index, middle, and ring. These three should be the same length. And then your thumb and pinky should also match. So that's just a rule of thumb on that. And that's really all that chapter 9, nail tips and forms, cover. Pretty easy chapter. This is our summary and review. So now that we have a clearer understanding, one of the most popular series you can offer is nail enhancements. You want to make sure that you're choosing your choosing properly sized nail tips. Before that, just make sure that you're also preparing the natural nail with either dry or wet manicure. Your nail forms may be harder to apply than tips, but it only takes a little bit of practice to master it. And then lastly, nail enhancements should remain strong and healthy while your client is wearing them. So if you don't have any other questions, these are the 7 objectives of our chapter 9, nail tips and forms. If you have any questions, you can leave comments below or ask your instructor.